We join our guests now in the studio. We have Gulnur Aybet, Professor of Political Science at Bahcesehir University, and Ahmet Yukleyen, who is Istanbul Commerce University. This speech, one must say, really does thank his supporters first and foremost, but also invokes God overall. Is this what you were expecting?
Well, if you look at his style and his sort of expertise, his background, you can clearly see that this is a time in which a lot of thanking will happen, and with someone that kind of a religious background and knowledge as well, we could see that this would happen. But also keep in mind that this is happening right in front of the tomb, if you will, of Rumi. So that's also very somewhat, if you one could say, even a sacred space. So all kind of comes together. His style, I think he was largely invoking this sense of modesty, and of course this emphasis on love, and of course Rumi being the symbol of love in mystical Islam. I think that kind of picture all comes together.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true in terms of the geographical location. I think that obviously has a lot to do with it as well. The same messages, emanating from Rumi's philosophy. But also I think there were sort of underlying nuances there that we need to pick on, which we will see the kind of things that will lie in the future from now on. And I think there's a lot of emphasis on conciliation, not being of those who seek hatred or grudges, being those who are opening their hearts to everyone, including those who didn't vote for the AK Party. So I think there were very important messages there in terms of a new direction towards a more conciliatory democracy and building that into the older framework of New Turkey that AK Party had put forward, but with this new nuance of being more embracing and more conciliatory. And I think that's very, very important. And we need to see, I think it's very, very important to see the more tangible aspects of that coming forward now in new policies and how they actually go about dealing with a new basis of a relationship with the opposition regarding a new constitution. I think there were undertones of that in there.
It is so important to get your analysis, particularly for our viewers who are not familiar with this location in particular in Turkey, because to some more secular, there are secular supporters of the AKP, to hear religious invocations so much over the tone of the speech, it is important to know that this is actually set at a somewhat spiritual scene. So it does bring out that tone as well. But I am being told that we can hear now HDP co-leader Selahattin Demirtas address his supporters. I believe he is also in Ankara. I think we can cross to that live. If not, let's continue this discussion on the speech that Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu just gave regarding the AKP victory. Ahmet, do you see this as was it for you as well, a real message of inclusivity?
Yeah, I think there was clearly that was the strongest message. He pointed out three major points. The first one was speaking to all the AK Party supporters, calling them not to come to any provocations. This is a day of being modest. So that is, again, a message of conciliation. Don't be aggressive towards others who you think who have lost. That's the undertone that I get from that first kind of point. And then he was then talking to the people who have not voted for AK Party, telling them that that they are that they should not be disappointed, that they will be included in his view of the new Turkey. So that was his second point, so to speak. And then the last point was that was a lot more kind of thanking to his co-towners, and then all that spirituality I think was coming through with a lot of set of prayers as well added to that list.
Okay, I'm being told we still can't join the supporters of the HDP who are greeting Selahattin Demirtas, who's about to speak in Ankara. But yes, we'll bring you that as soon as that becomes available. So as for the AKP going forward, I mean, this is quite a time for Turkey, let's just say that. particularly in the realm of foreign policy as regards a war on Turkey's border with Syria and the influx of refugees, 2 million people now in Turkey, waiting for either asylum, under refugee status. What will the AKP do now with this new mandate, with the majority government, to address particularly issues of foreign policy regarding Syria?
Well, that's a tough issue that's been on the table for some time. The refugee issue is not so easily to resolve. You know, there have been some sort of talks with the EU representatives, with Angela Merkel coming in and so forth, but those are not long-term solutions. I think the biggest solution has to lie in the solution of the Syrian crisis itself. And Turkey has been involved in a series of talks in Vienna and so forth. You know, I think Turkey has to come out of this by making its foreign policy regarding Syria effective and flexible at the same time. There's some of the issues regarding this transition period has largely set Turkey, for some critics at least, to a corner where Turkey can't move out of what to do with Assad during the transition period. I think with this new strong government, Turkey, if the decision makers can make it a more flexible and effective policy at the same time, maybe this transition periods can be much smoother. And there is a possibility there. It's not easy, and of course there are the bigger actors that are involved in this crisis. So it looks like Turkey will have to live with this crisis, the refugee crisis, as well as the Syrian crisis itself for some time.
I think the two, fine-tuning here on interests that need to be done. I mean, the first level is really between the USA and Russia, how they're going to fine-tune their interests, and the second level is regional fine-tuning of interests. And we saw that obviously with the two big powers, Russia and USA, but also with Saudi Arabia and Turkey at Vienna last Friday. So this also indicates to us that Turkey is emerging as a sort of de facto contact group partner, like they had over Bosnia in the region, in trying to find an end game to the Syrian to the Syrian situation. But also, you mentioned about flexibility. I mean, I think this is very important that all the actors are now moving towards that, whether they want to or not. I mean, it just comes, de facto, there will be flexibility because of this fine-tuning that has to be done of interest, which also includes Iran, which wasn't part of these foursome talks. So if a fine-tuning at the regional level can be done, then I think some kind of deal will be worked out as to the transition period and what happens to Assad after that.
Yeah.
And I think, having a strong government in Turkey, a single-party government, is actually going to make that fine-tuning a lot easier than if, say, we had been in a situation like we were after the 7th of June, when there's all this uncertainty within the country as well as outside the country. With the refugees, I mean, I agree. I mean, you need to find a solution to the Syrian problem before you can deal with that. And the EU side of dealing with this so far have been very short-term stopgap measures, which, they're not going to find a sort of comprehensive solution to this. So
it's of fundamental importance. It was of fundamental importance going into this election, and it is fundamentally important to the Turkish electorate now, because it is part of the primary issue that led people to the polls this time, one of the primary issues being that of stability.